Welcome back to the Big Brown Sack. You're with Day and Joe and a very special guest all the way from the OC, the one and only OC.
Yeah.
My mother, a.k.a. Tammy, a.k.a. Tampster, and on bad days, Tampon.
Woohoo!
Wow.
Welcome to the podcast, Mom.
She went there right in the introduction.
Right away.
Wow.
There it is. What's this podcast going to be like? Well, there's a little taste
That's rough.
right out of the gate.
Oh, it's adorable.
Well, we were talking about this today because I call my mom Tampster. Do you think I call you Tampster more often than Mom?
I don't know. It depends on your mood sometimes.
Yeah, if I'm in a silly, goofy mood, I'm like, Tampster.
Sometimes you'll answer the phone and it's Tamster. I mean, a lot it's Mom.
Yeah. And my mom asked me in the car today, we were driving. We took a little day trip and she was like, who came up with Tampster? Was it you? I feel like it was someone else. And it was someone else. It was one of my best girlfriends in high school. Samantha, shout out. She named you Tampster. Mm-hmm. And then I told you, and behind your back, when we were teenagers, when you would get us in trouble or not let us do things, we'd call you Tampon.
Yeah, and I remember when I must have suppressed that because you had told me that before.
I have totally told you that
And
before.
then I heard it again today and I was like, wow. But it's also funny. And you had said that it was because sometimes she would get irritated with me because she felt like I was kind of strict. But
you were.
Well, I mean, I was.
In high school, you were.
I mean.
You're so many things.
Okay, so.
You were you were many things at once.
What do you guys always
That's
say?
right. Many things
you both
are
always
true
say.
And
at
that
the
is-
same time.
That is something that my mother has always said. One of her life lessons to me, and I repeat it all the time, is you can be two things can always be true at once, or many things can be true at once. So you were strict and you were not strict, and we will let Joe speak in this podcast. We'll see. I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to be all you and me. He's going to get like 10
Can we talk
words
about
in.
how she's a different person than she was just 10 minutes
I
ago?
mean,
You're literally falling
was
asleep on the
like-
couch 10 minutes ago.
I told you give
put
her a
a-
mic. And it's on, baby.
It's on.
It's on.
Should I just
It was
go
like
take a nap or?
It was like a light switch.
Yeah.
Like she was good to go.
I'm ready to rock.
I do
with
have some
the two
input.
ya.
Can
Yeah, I like the sound of my voice in my ear. It amps me up. You put me, if I'm not in the mood to pod, just throw some headphones on. Give me a mic. Just let me hear my voice
She's
pulse through my
ready
ears.
to go.
Ready to rock. Well, while I have some time before you guys go on a rant and I end up just putting the microphone down and going upstairs until this thing's over and eventually 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
I do have a question, and I'm glad you brought up the Tamsterisms. A Tamsterism of two things can be true at once.
Yeah.
There's a Tamsterism that I say. It's something I learned from you.
This is his word for what I coin or you've coined as helpful tips by Tammy.
Right.
Okay.
Tamsterism.
What do you like better, Tamsterism or helpful tips by Tammy?
I don't care. I'm happy to be mentioned.
So this is a HTBT, a helpful tip by Tammy. This is a little HTBT for you. One thing that that Dayna told me that you tell her that it has really stuck with me is unpack your suitcase. And literally and metaphorically. So literally, if you're on a trip, even if you're there for a weekend, unpack the suitcase, be where your feet are. And then figuratively, in moments of life where maybe you wish you were somewhere else or wish you were doing something else, unpack your suitcase and be where you are. I think about it a lot, and how many times have I said it to you, Day? Many times.
He says it all the time. Every time we go somewhere, we have a suitcase. He goes, we got to unpack it.
Gotta unpack it.
Throw the things on the hangers. Be where you are. Get settled.
Yep.
Yeah. It's good to be where your feet are.
He mentions it a lot. Yeah, he mentions that a lot. But okay, anyway.
Does that still ring true to you? Like, does that bring up any emotion for you when you say that?
No. I mean, I can't remember when I would have specifically said that to you, but it's like something I say.
What the situation was where my mom gave you that advice. Or
I was
us that
probably
advice.
going on some rant about washing the dishes. Like when you're because I talk about this, like when you're washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. Like especially now we're so checked out on our phones. Like I'm so addicted to this stupid phone that I have to is it now just if you're going to be on TikTok, just be on TikTok? Like that doesn't seem to be hard to do, right? But all these other things that, when you're driving, just drive. When you're washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. Mm-hmm. But the unpacking is, people don't unpack, and it's like that physical action helps you kind of ground yourself and get where you're going to be.
Totally.
I could also imagine that you may have said that to us in a literal sense during COVID, because there were a lot of times during COVID where we'd come down and stay with you for extended periods of time. I think we'd been at your house, Joe and I, living in your home in Orange County for I think the longest stint was probably 3 weeks, maybe.
I loved COVID. So much company, and it was great.
When there shouldn't be any company.
I am sure there's a lot of parents out there that felt like that was a huge bonus to COVID. Like our adult children could come home for more than a holiday weekend. Huge. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
This is Channel 4 Accent News. We are asking locals around the area, how has COVID affected you? Ma'am, excuse me, how has COVID affected you? I'm loving it.
I see my kids all the time. They need me again.
The best thing that's ever happened to me.
I ordered HelloFresh so I could have something to cook.
which is sponsoring this podcast. Just kidding. Yeah, I feel like that was really cool. And you got to know Joe really well during that time, which you wouldn't have gotten to know him in any other circumstance.
So true.
No, I would have known Joe from holidays, visiting up here, but not the kind of way that we got to know each other in that situation. And with you meeting him up here, it would have been distant for many years that way. Yeah. So for me, it was great. Yeah.
At this point, even though we've been dating for years, you guys would still be being cordial with one another and extra polite, you know?
You're probably right.
Whereas now we're super cool and can all relax and be ourselves. But what was your first impression of Joe when you first met him?
Oh gosh.
When we first started dating? I don't know, because there was a time where you met him and we were friends.
I'm wondering when the first time was that I met Joe. I think I had heard so much about Joe because he was, one of the 7 dwarfs. Mm-hmm. So I had heard a bunch about...
You might have to do a little backstory of what you mean by the 7 dwarfs.
Yeah.
And it's not... Because this is an audio podcast. I am average height.
You're a good height. Today we established that the shirt we bought you fit. And,
yep.
Yeah. And
totally.
It was good. Mm-hmm. When Dayna started working at the company where you guys met... in her group that was, the group that we call class. Them cohorts in my line of work, a cohort. Mm-hmm. It was Dayna and 7 guys. And so I termed them Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs.
Hilarious.
And because, she's
white.
All that in a bag of chips. And then there's these 7 dorks that she's working with. And I would
more like the 7 dorks.
I would see pictures
we
on.
said that today.
Yeah, we did say that today, but I edited myself. It's only funny when I say it. Yeah, I edited myself today. But I would see pictures of Dayna and all these boys on rooftop parties and all these places. And Greg, I would show Greg and, look at this, here's Dayna and these 7 dwarfs. And he started noticing as time went by that there was always one dwarf that was around. And so Greg knew well before I did, I think.
We might have,
but I don't remember the exact trip that I met Joe.
Sure.
I don't remember.
So clearly I left a very impactful first impression.
No, I think I probably saw you on a FaceTime first or something.
So when you're describing to your friends, who your daughter's dating, what kind of words do you use?
Oh, I just say he's so fun and outgoing. And I love that he's one of these people that wake up happy and optimistic and has energy and has a joy for living, because that is what I think really helps also build a life with somebody is when you're with somebody that can bring that out in you. And I have that in my life now, and it lifts my mood up and makes me happy.
Yeah.
So for me to see that with you and your partner, it makes me very happy. So when I describe you, I say, oh, he's really smart, he's got this great job, but mostly it's about he's fun and he's funny,
He's
and
upbeat.
he has a joy for life.
Yeah. AKA, you're a ray of sunshine.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for saying that. That is really sweet. Thank you.
All right, question right back to you.
Maybe maybe I'll
describing-
call him Joe McHappy.
I love that.
Got him!
Joe McHappy.
Happy Meal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, question right back at you. When you, let's say you're talking to a family member or a friend and they say, what's Dayna's mom like? What kind of words come up in your mind? Not to put you on the spot.
Love. Like she she genuinely loves and cares about you so much. And you can just really tell. And that's the best, that's all you can ask for out of a parent, is just unconditional love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this actually bleeds into something I want to talk about. A lot of people I know don't, especially girls, don't have great relationships with their moms. It happens a lot. You two have seemed to pull it off of having a great relationship with one another. What do you think why has it been able to last between the two of you? How have you maintained such a great relationship over the years?
Yeah, I'll start.
Okay.
You, especially as a teenager, which are very complex years for a young gal, you did a really good job at making a very safe space for me to come to you and trust you and ask you questions that would be really scary to ask. And you just created such a safe space for me where I never felt judged or like punished or shamed for anything I told you. You were only ever happy that I was like telling you something and like keeping you in the loop. And so that helped me see you as someone who I can lean on as like a partner in life and not just like as my mom. I also love to be loved by you. I love to need you. So like, hey mom, the IRS is saying I owe them $20,000. I'm going to need you to take this one off my hands.
So you realize the necessity
She's a
for a mother.
Yeah.
And
She's a necessity.
when the
for
IRS
sure.
comes knocking, you know who you're calling.
Yeah.
It's a necessity.
Yeah. So a combination of like I need you. I still want to need you whilst I'm 26 and very independent. It is nice to have those moments. And you're really good at boundaries. You are very good at boundaries. If I set a boundary with you, like you're really good at just keeping the boundary, I guess. And we can have really hard conversations with each other. So,
That's so nice, Dayna. Thank you.
yeah. And you're funny.
I am funny.
I don't think a lot of people would be like, yeah, mom, like, come on my podcast. I've only done less than 10 episodes, but,
So what do you think? Do you, is the same reasons or different?
Yeah, I know that like Dayna was an easy kid, and even a pretty easy teenager. I mean, there were moments, right?
like what?
Well, let me go back to when she was
Expand
a
on
kid for a minute. Dayna,
Yeah, let's just go through each phase of my life.
yeah. So Dayna, like I because I was coming on here and you guys had invited me to do that, I started to like really remember and, get myself back into those moments because, you're nearly 27 years old. So time has gone by and I'm not getting any younger. So, I thought about her as like a baby. I thought about her as a toddler. Like I really went through it. And the overall theme is that she was, what we found out on that Brain MD thing we did, is she was actually a really balanced kid. She was a balanced baby. She was a balanced toddler. I mean, she had some terrible too situations and things like that. But overall, she was happy. She, was always singing. She would sing all the time.
That's still a thing for sure.
Yeah. And I just loved it so much. I remember when she was getting ready to go away to college, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss all the singing in the house because she's just making up songs all the time from the time she was very little. So she just brought a lot of joy and life into the house.
She doesn't just sing, she belts.
Yeah. Really let it rip.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, so she was easy on me, right? And so I can't even say it was a whole lot of work, but I can say that I was very intentional when those years were coming because I knew those are the conscious years that kids remember you the most.
What ages?
They remember you when you're little, but there's nothing really hard then unless there's the child's hard. But, from 12 on, kids are going to remember the situations with their parents, and it's going to kind of form your adult relationships with them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And with other people.
Yeah.
It's a very delicate thing.
Delicate.
Like parenting someone is no joke.
So you would say the most
or break things.
The most
people.
important years for a parent to really lock in are probably like 12 to 16.
No, it's just a different locking in. I mean, the brain is fully formed and you are going to be who you are, not fully formed.
No, it doesn't fully form
until you're 25.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the personality is there at a much younger age. I'm saying that the intentionality of those years, the ones leading up to adulthood, are really forming that relationship too. Like, yeah, everything before that, you're setting a tone in your home, you're doing all of that, but things are about to get hard. Yeah. Like the hormones are going to start flowing. This person is going to not love you anymore. They're going to be hateful. They're going to want things from you all the time, and you're going to feel like a cash cow and a chauffeur. And you have to be able to separate yourself from that, right? This is every kid. I mean, moms I talk to all the time feel like they're a chauffeur and they feel like all they do is hand out money. And so you have those years where you're giving a lot and you're getting next to nothing.
Nothing in return.
Totally. Yeah. And the little crumbs you do get, you're just like, oh, okay, I can keep going, right? And this isn't particular to Dayna.
She called me mom instead of Tamster today.
You're like, that's a win.
That's a win. But
here's another 20. Yeah, so you and Don got divorced when Dayna was how old?
We decided to get divorced January of her junior year of high school.
Okay. And so get divorced when Dayna's in high school, but you maintained a friendship throughout that time.
Yeah. I mean, one, I went to a therapist before we wanted to make sure we were going down the road at not a terrible time. And it seemed like a terrible time, but it also seemed like it really needed to be done. And so I went and saw a therapist about that in particular question because we were both in agreement that we could wait until she was done with high school. And
which a lot of parents do. My parents were also trying to do that.
A lot of parents are trying to do that. And this is one therapist's opinion, and I am not a therapist, disclaimer, although I play one in real life, let me tell you.
She does.
I play many doctors in real life. My friends could tell you that. But I went to a therapist, $400 an hour in Newport Beach. I saw him one time. There are these therapists that you can go to that'll you give them a question, and they will give you the research-backed data on your situation. So you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, they'll tell you what the research says about a thing. Now I could just ask ChatGPT, right? Yeah. Anyway, so I asked this guy, is this kid better off us doing this now in the middle of her junior year when she's writing college essays, or after she graduates from high school? And we're both willing to, fake it till we get
The
there.
survey
right?
says.
Mom, survey said.
Survey says that when parents wait until their kids go away to college or graduate from high school, the data says that those kids are working that crap out in adulthood forevermore, because they have so much pressure on them because they felt like their parents stayed miserable for them. And so there's even more pressure on them to like have their whole lives together. And because even more so, if you didn't already feel like your parents' world were revolving around you, definitely my generation behaved that way, then you're really going to feel that even more once those kids see, they just stayed together for me. Like, what a sacrifice for me, right? So much burden on them. And so we went ahead and moved forward.
Wow.
Dawn was my best friend for 23 years, 24 years, and I was not willing to give that up just because we were getting divorced.
Wow. That's so rare.
It really is. It's so much easier to hate the person. So what was like the hardest part about raising me as a teen? What did you have the most trouble with? What did I cause most trouble? Like, what areas?
There were boy troubles.
I was boy crazy.
I think the hardest thing I probably had to do during her high school years, and I mean, looking back now, I mean, it really was, this was awful at the time. Looking back, I know it was the right decision, but in the middle of it, I was just like, I was tormented over this. And that is when I forced you to break up with a boyfriend. That was like, I was like so tormented, but I was like, this is not good. She's forming relationships that are not healthy. I didn't want her to start dating till she
What's
was
his name?
16.
And address?
I didn't want her to start dating till she was 16, but she fell for this kid before that. And, what are you going to do? I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there that are saying, tell her no. I mean, she's a good kid. She's saying she likes this kid. She's all, goo goo gaga for him. And so we let her go down that road, and, it's breaking up and getting back together and just things that are not appropriate. And I'm concerned that she's forming patterns in those kinds of relationships that are going to continue. Like I said earlier, that's my frame of mind, right? What kind of gets going in those formative years are really important. And so at some point I did make the decision, probably, I was probably in therapy, and I probably said, this has got to stop. And we cut it off, and she hated me. And she was very upset for quite a long time. Dad,
because I knew Dad had a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, I was the messenger.
Dad was very involved in that. I don't know. For some reason, I remember Dad doing it.
I remember being in your bedroom, talking you through it. I don't know. Your dad might have a better memory of it. I know I was dealing with a lot of the ramifications, and you probably hated us both. But I know I felt your hatred, and it was for a long time. And I would say until you were well into adulthood, did you not understand that decision?
Oh, no, I definitely didn't until like college. I was like, oh, I get it. But I was probably mad at you until I got another boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, you probably recovered pretty quick.
Yeah, because I get boyfriends really quick. Are you jealous? Do you have feelings of jealousy hearing these things?
No, because I just remember myself at that age.
Yeah.
And I think back, and, I was doing all the same weird, dumb things. And
So, Dayna, question.
I only think about those girls like once every 2 days.
Dayna, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
if you were in that same situation with a future daughter of yours, would you make the same call knowing what you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a good conversation because this pretty much answered every question we got on the Instagram poll, which is, what was Dayna like as a teenager? Mm-hmm. How did Tammy feel about Dayna's ex-boyfriends? And how does she feel about Joe? Covered both of those things.
Nice.
And then how was Dayna during puberty? Which I think we covered all of
What's like, do you find yourself ever telling and retelling stories about Dayna as a teenager? Is there one specific story that you find yourself telling more than others?
Well, I didn't know if you wanted me to take you down with the driving. Your driving was for shit.
Can you tell the story about how you caught me speeding? There you go.
Yeah. So I guess probably looking back, the thing that was a continual situation with Dayna was her driving. I mean, within a week of her getting her license and her driving, she had sideswiped a brand new car. I want to say it was like a brand new Kia or something. It was a 4-door older lady. Dayna calls me, oh my gosh, I've hit this car, whatever. And I go right over.
I still remember like where I was.
I remember every time I drive there, I think about it. And so let's just say that while Dayna was in high school, my insurance never went up because I was running around Orange County writing checks so that we wouldn't have to report accidents.
Wow. We were talking about how my parents committed insurance fraud in that way as well.
Yeah.
On an
yeah.
earlier
I
podcast
feel
as
really
well.
good about it.
So you grew up in a family of insurance fraud as well.
Yeah, maybe that's why we love each other.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I think the people that Dayna hit, she was very lucky because they were always very forgivable. She's darling. She feels terrible. She takes immediate yeah, I did it. And then mom's coming.
Mind you, she handles objections for a living.
Yes. And so I never really classified it as insurance fraud, Joe.
I'm joking. I'm just joking.
I just, if
if we want to be technical.
I guess, listen, these were agreements between adults. One mom to a lady that Dayna hit, right?
Yeah. A Pittsburgh goodbye.
Yeah.
Handshake and a slap on the back.
That's right.
So it's Dayna. Well, Dayna's driving to and from school after months of driving with me in the car back and forth to school. And she's allowed to take the toll road to school, but not home from school. Because to school, I want you to get there on time. And she's a teenager, hair, makeup, everything has to be done. But I need her to get there on time. Well, I don't know. I was just thinking, how is this girl not getting any tardies? Because she's leaving 5 minutes before that bell rings. There is no way in hell she is getting from my house to toll and exits down and to the high school, right? Now, she's got a fast car that was her grandmother's that she had always wanted. It's a Toyota Solara, and this thing hauls. It's an 8-cylinder. And so I look on the toll road bill at some point, and I see that she is getting on the toll road, say at 7:08, and she is getting 2 miles down the road in like a minute. And all of a sudden, I have my answer as to how this little girl is getting herself to school on time.
Because you got the time. Every
She's
morning at
hauling.
7:55 a.m., Dayna Vodder transforms into Dom Toretto from The Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
It's about family and making it to school on time.
So I don't know what she did after that, but once she knew that I could see what she was doing all the time.
Timestamps. The toll booth timestamped her.
Did it.
Wait,
Yeah.
honestly,
So
when
you
I
knew
got
she
home,
was going 2 miles in like 1 minute.
In so quickly. Yeah.
when she brought this up to me, I was like, damn. Like, yeah,
Red-handed.
you got me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you got me. Because I remember you brought it up to see if I'd, like, tell you if I was speeding or not. You know?
I don't remember.
You were sneaky. You
Oh,
had
was
sneaky
I?
parenting.
Oh,
You
okay.
really did.
Did I?
You wouldn't straight up be like, hey, I saw on the toll road thing, like you'd test me out to see how much I'd bullshit
Ah.
You knew you had her. You're like, let's see where she goes with this.
you. Yeah, dude. You
don't
do that shit
remember
all
that.
the time. For sure. For
That's
sure.
epic. That's great parenting in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I
it's a
think
strategy. It's strategic, I
I
think.
think it has to do a little bit with my grandma. My grandma used to say to me, she'd find stuff out around town and she'd say something to me and she'd go,
Like
what?
what?
She said, I have eyes everywhere. She knew where I was out partying. She knew who I was with.
How do you think she knew?
I don't know.
She literally had eyes?
She probably had eyes out everywhere in this small
She chipped
town.
you, and that's why you chipped me, and I have a chip.
Yeah, maybe.
You definitely did not have a chip.
Yeah, my mom chipped me.
No, she
I'd
didn't.
like to chip her. I think she needs
I'm
a
like
chip.
winking, Mom, you chipped me. I would be, hot take, you guys let me know in the comms, I would be down to get chipped. I'm fine with people knowing where I'm at. I prefer it. I'd feel a lot safer.
You wouldn't be afraid though of like the government using it against you or something?
The government would use my phone against me. If,
Yeah, I mean, you're
like,
being.
what do you mean?
They know
Like,
where you're at all the time.
Yeah, all the cameras all around. They catch.
Yeah.
You can't
Well,
hide.
and I think the interesting thing too with Dayna is she has never cared, like when I know where she's at, or like when she was in college, find my phone. Like, she never worried
I don't
about
give a
that
shit.
stuff.
What are you gonna do?
We just cared and wanted to know
Yeah.
where she was. There was nothing.
And I wanted to be known where I was.
Yeah.
One of my best girlfriends, you know who you are, Peyton. I'll just say it. I get a text from her, not lately because my Find My Friends is like down. It's being weird. I have to like update my phone or something. But I'll get like a text a month from her saying like, hey, I see you're at this park. Like, you good? She's checking my location like 4 times a day. I just found out like last year. I'm like, wait, really? She's like, yeah. You never check mine? I'm like, no. Like, why?
I feel better.
We live in 2 different states. It's
I
so
feel
cute.
better.
I love it.
I feel better knowing that Peyton is momming harder than I am at this point.
Yeah.
So she's taken all the pressure off me.
Totally. Be right back. God pee.
Okay. We can do this part without Dayna.
All right.
Although we miss you already, Day.
Miss you already.
Have a good twink. So I think it would be helpful for you to understand our demographic of audience. So I want to read you.
That's where we were at.
According to Spotify, 59% of our audience is between the ages of 23 and 27. 34% of our audience is between 28 and 34. So that's the bulk of our audience is in that group. And I think the 3% in the larger groups is probably you, Dawn, and my mom.
Yeah, I think that's who's doing that. And we're listening to them 2 and 3 times.
Yeah. So, and then gender-wise, we have this is as close as it's ever been, a 57% female audience and a 43% male audience. We do not have any non-binary or non-specified listeners as of right now. Mm-hmm. But let us know how we can branch out. But so pretty even split.
Yeah.
Male, female, mostly within the age range of 23 to 34.
Right.
Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to yourself in the 23 to 34 age range, and you could slip yourself a note of advice of what you know now that you wish you knew then, what would you write on your note?
I was gone and I went pee, and you were asking that question the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah. He set it up with the demographic. Well, first of all, I want to say that I think that demographic is really reflective of your guys's supportive friend groups.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
you both have a nice, Dana's got this eclectic group kind of from all over. And so do you, Joe. People that, have really supported and loved you guys. And so I think it's really nice that it's split that way. What would I tell myself? Well, your dad has a saying.
Uh-oh.
And I don't know. Lately, I've decided I don't know if I like it, but it does resonate here, which is if everything's going to be okay in the end, it's okay right now. You just haven't noticed it yet. I think that for me, I would slip myself a note that said, have fun, don't take yourself too seriously, and just unpack your suitcase.
Wow.
I
Hear
love the circle back. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's a pro podcast move right
That's
there.
a callback if I've ever heard one.
Yeah,
Inspired.
you really do have so many gems, and they are hard to think of on the spot. Like I try to I've been trying to think of all the things that you've taught me. You just have some seriously fire one-liners.
That was another HTBT.
Yeah.
That was another, and that was another HTBT right here on the Big Brown Sack.
Well, your dad will claim that one, and we'll let him have it because it comes from somebody else more
Fine, we'll
famous than
fucking
your
let him have
dad.
it.
But it is that stuff for me is true. What I said about have fun, don't take yourself too seriously, and unpack your suitcase.
That's great.
So, Mom, enough about the past.
Yeah,
Let's talk about the future.
let's do it.
What do you have coming up that you're looking forward to? Because that's another Tamsterism of always have something to look forward to.
Yeah,
Is that an HTBT?
well, I'll tell. I mean, everything I know, I stole from other people.
Yeah.
So just like that's how we all get to know things, right? When we talk about storytelling.
Yeah, my mom doesn't have one original thought in her body.
I really don't. I mean, sometimes I do. I mean, I could go on and on about that idea, but everything that I know, I learned from other people telling me stories, just like kind of what your podcast is like, telling stories, right? And
We don't know.
well, I kind of think
That's where we're at
it
right
is.
now.
I mean, for me, that's
don't
what
know.
it is. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm telling stories. And so,
You're telling great stories, by the way.
yeah. And thank you, Joe.
She's like, yeah, I am. Anyway.
Who's not to like this guy, right? Well, my mom, after my father died, had her longest next relationship was a guy named Jerry. And, you know, he's like your mom's boyfriend, right? You take him, you leave him, whatever.
That's not how I feel about you, Gregorino. Don't worry.
Yes. And
Gregorino's my mom's boyfriend.
He's gonna be all over
His
this
actual
episode.
name is Greg.
Greg.
Shout out Greg.
Shout out Greg.
Talk about.
But if you break my mom's heart, this podcast is going off the record. We're deleting it, and there's never going to be a lick of your existence anywhere near that ever back.
So that's pretty much how
Just kidding. I
daughters
love you,
feel
Greg.
about the boyfriends of their mothers.
Yeah. I will
And-
say, I don't want you to lose your train of thought, but
Yeah.
I know Greg is going to listen to this. And when you were talking about waking up happy and being positive and being optimistic, come on.
Yeah, that's that guy, right? I know. Love him. Love that guy.
Okay, go on.
Okay, so
he does
Jerry,
take a lot of naps, though.
well, he's getting old. He's getting old. He needs a day nap.
They needed to humble him a little with the nap thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, when that guy goes to bed and he hits the bed,
He's out.
he's out like a light. I'm like, God, if only.
I'd give anything to sleep like that. He's asleep. I'm sitting there another hour.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
He's talented.
Jerry, God rest his soul, he did say to be happy, you need 3 things. Now, Jerry said this, but recently I saw this in an article. So it was either Jerry read it
Jerry
somewhere
stole
else.
it. Jerry stole it from someone just like
Jerry
we did.
probably stole it from somebody else, or whoever wrote this article stole it from Jerry. We'll never know. This is storytelling,
Chicken,
right?
a classic chicken or the egg.
Who knows? Okay, so to be happy in life, you need 3 things: someone to love, something you love to do, and something you're looking forward to. And so that's what, you know, that's what you're really aiming for here. And so that would be, I don't know why we started on that, but that was one of my
Because I was
other-
asking you what are you looking forward to? So let's go through each. So someone to share it with.
Yeah.
That's Gregorino.
I have Gregorino. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And that means to you, that means like someone to share it with who's romantic,
Yeah,
intimate, and like a, you know,
I
more
think
of a-
for most of your life, it's a romantic partner that you're looking for.
yeah. Okay, so you have someone to share it with,
Yeah.
and then the second one? Don't tell me. Don't tell me. I'm trying to work on my memory. Something you love to do.
Something you love to do.
Which is listen to this podcast.
That's right.
So
Listen to this
all good there.
podcast as
All good there.
often as possible.
I just found out that my mom listens to each episode multiple times. So our views that we're really excited about, I think like 30% of them are my
Fuck
mom.
it.
I listen
Inflate
to
'em.
it.
Fuck it, keep it going.
I listen to it on YouTube, so you get the YouTube hit. Then I turn it on Spotify, so you get the Spotify hit. Then I call Greg and I say, Greg, don't forget to listen to the kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Lord's work.
Yeah,
People.
and then as soon as the demographic starts hitting over 40 people, then we'll know that my girlfriends have finally started listening because I'm
Let's
sharing
go.
it
Yeah,
all
you
the time.
fake bitches. You know who you are.
You know who you
Oh,
are.
or maybe you don't because you're not listening to this podcast. So we're calling you out and you don't even know.
Oh, can I come on as a guest? How many episodes have you listened to? None. See ya, dude.
Yeah. So something I love to do. I have lots of things I love to do. I love to walk and talk with my girlfriends. I love to play games. I'm playing games all the time. I
Games. You're right. You love to play games.
love to play games.
Rummy's one of your faves.
Yes.
I think we ended up evening out this week.
Yeah, we evened out over the weekend. You did really good. And you did so well this weekend. I even asked you, have you and Joe been playing? But you had
That's
not.
right. I was crushing her in some rounds. She didn't have anything on me, but there were a few rounds where I was just like, can we just stop this round because you're winning. You've won.
Yeah.
Let's just cut to the chase here.
But sometimes it's just
But
practice.
when I'm crushing you, I'm like, no, bitch, we're finishing this shit.
Yes. Well, because it's practice. Even when somebody else is winning, it's good to practice.
Real mom-daughter moment. Do you still think my cussing's cute? Or are you over it?
Your cussing doesn't bother me. I don't
You
think
used
it's...
to think it was cute, though.
There were some years where I thought it was real cute because when you were younger, of course you weren't cussing, and I wasn't showing my true cussing colors when you were growing up either.
Of course not.
Yes.
That would be silly.
Yeah. But I've been known to have the mouth of a sailor.
Me too. Now, podcast, good thing we're doing this early in the journey so people know where I'm getting my potty mouth. Right here from my mama.
I
Got it
didn't-
from my mama.
I didn't model that for you at home.
Okay. I definitely think you contribute to how much
I
cuss.
think that's probably nature.
probably in my college years.
I think it's
when we started
nature.
cussing up a storm together.
nature over nurture there.
That's also something that bonded us.
Okay. It's probably in your DNA.
Throwing the F-bombs around.
Oh,
I have a
Maybe.
Calling people
vivid
C words.
C words. What's the C word, Dana?
What? I mean,
Crazy.
listen. All right. All right. I mean,
Chaotic.
I did go to some sorority fraternity parties where I can imagine that word was thrown around.
It's a term of endearment in Australia. But,
Sure is.
I have a vivid memory of my childhood where I was downstairs playing.
Well, this isn't about you. This is about my childhood.
You're right.
You
I'm
can
done.
tell it when your mom's on. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm feeling sassy.
yeah.
Sassy Dayna.
There's a vivid childhood memory I have of playing Xbox Live in my basement, and I was talking to my friends and swearing a little bit, and my mom yelled down the stairs so my friends could hear her through my mic. She goes, "Stop fucking swearing!" And I go, "That's just about the best thing I've
That's
ever heard."
amazing.
awesome.
I love that.
Shout out, Mom.
Shout out,
Shout out
Amy.
to all the moms.
Amy,
Shout
thank you
out
so much for our
Amy.
Easter basket.
Yeah, that was
so
so
excited
cute.
to try all those trinkets.
So my mom sends me this box today. It's Easter. It's gonna be Easter weekend. This episode's gonna come out on Easter Sunday.
Yes.
The Easter episode.
Oh my gosh!
Jesus will have risen.
Wow. So by the time you're listening to this, I don't know if you've heard, but he's risen.
He's risen.
Oh baby!
Breaking news. You heard it here first.
Oh, he's risen. So go around and spread the good news today. But anyways, my mom sends me the Easter box today, and I'm looking at these socks.
I love those socks.
And I had a little bit of like a really nice moment upstairs putting these socks on where I think, so my mom sends me things like this. And when I'm around my mom, I kind of get reminded of who I am. you know? And so I'm putting these, and I just always kind of feel that when I'm around my mom, and she'll say things, and I find similarities between us, and it's kind of a good reminder of who I am, because we both have moms who don't live in the same state as us. So Dayna does not get to see you much. I don't get to see my mom much. I'm putting these socks on. These socks say, they've got a picture of a fox on them, and it says 0 fox given. And they're just really silly. And I was putting them on upstairs. I was like, this is who I am, man. I'm at my core, I'm just a silly dude, you know? Had a hard day at work. I was all stressed out, but at my core, I'm just a silly dude who likes wearing 0 fox given socks.
You're just a silly, goofy guy
Who
who likes fox on his socks.
Do you feel that way around your mom? Do you ever feel like being around your mom reminds you of who you are? A little bit?
Maybe not in like the things she says, but you're familiar to me. Like, you give me a sense of home. So when I'm around you, I feel like a little bit more grounded and connected to like my inner child.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, I think. Yeah, do you feel connected to your inner child around your mom?
Yes, absolutely.
It kind of brings you back to that childlike
way
you used to be.
And especially in college, when I'd come home for breaks or, breaks, summer, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever. I'd come home and I would fully break down. Like, sometimes it would be crying for days. I just needed to be held by my mom. And sometimes it was in the form of like, I just need to be taken care of. Like, I need you to bring me things. I need you to get me things.
So you'd come home from college and just like cry for days?
At times, yeah. I wanted to specifically
Were you
cry
concerned? Like, what the
in
hell's
her
going on?
arms. Like, I needed to really like let it all out, because in college you don't have a lot of opportunity to feel your feelings and internalize your experiences, and it's also new, and you're on your own for the first time, a lot of fight or flight, and you're living with someone in college in the same room your first year,
Right.
And even if it's your best friend, you can't cry yourself to sleep.
She would come home, and after the first couple of visits home, I was like, oh, I need to clear a lot of my schedule the first few days, because she needed me. And but she was also able to verbally say, I just need to be taken care of. And so I would just take care of her and, do the laundry, get the food, sit and watch the TV, let her cry, let her process the shit that had gone down and since the last time I saw her. And I always felt honored that she felt safe enough to be doing all of that with me.
That's amazing. And thank you for making my question way better than it was. That was an average question at best, and you rephrased it and made it so much better. And so thank you.
My pleasure. That's why I'm here.
Thanks for carrying us. You said you didn't go to college, but you did end up going to college.
Yeah, well, I mean, I left high school and I went to community college. And the first couple years I flunked out of everything because I was only going because my mom said she would keep paying my bills if I went to school. So that's how much fun I was.
She knew your motivators.
Yeah. And then I met Dawn and we were still going to college, and then we got married. And I mean, I took probably 8 to 10 years to get my bachelor's, because then I have kids and I don't want to leave during the day. So Dawn and I would trade the kids off in the parking lot. I'd take the 3 to 6 class once a week. He'd take the 6 to 9. Like, we went to school and we ended up graduating together. And so, yes, I got my bachelor's. And then when I got divorced, I decided, well, I better get a master's degree. I need to up my skill
my mama
set.
got her master's.
Yeah.
She a mama with a master's.
What year
She
did you-
Educated.
What year did you finish school?
Which one?
The master's.
2017.
So early 2000s into 2010s, one of the sickest burns out there was your mom goes to college.
Yes.
Did you get that a lot, or did you have anybody doing the sick burn of your mom goes to college because she quite literally was going to college at that point?
Well, I was in college at the time.
Oh. You guys went to
So-
college together.
We basically went to college at the same time.
Yeah, baby.
That's always been something we've said in the house. Like, as we'd like do our own digs, we're like, oh yeah, your mom goes to college. Like,
That's my Wi-Fi password.
yeah, it is. It actually is. Yeah.
Your mom goes to college.
There is a myth that I need to bust with you.
Sure.
So, I have it in my head that during middle school or high school, I was addicted to Coca-Cola. And there was a time where I would not get out of bed for school unless you woke me up with a cold, sizzling glass of
baffles me.
Coca-Cola.
This is like a.
Is
I
this
hope
true?
it's not
And
true.
can
I
you
hope it's not true.
explain this in your experience?
Did you or did you not have to wake Dayna up with a Coca-Cola in the morning during high school?
I did hear this on the podcast.
And is it true?
Tell me it's not.
Or did
And
I make it up?
I really thought about it. And let me tell you, to be totally transparent, I can see myself doing this. I'm sorry, Joe. I may have created a monster in some way.
A little
listen.
bubbly monster.
You two can judge me when you have kids this age, okay? But if your kid will get up because you brought them a Coca-Cola, you'll bring them a Coca-Cola.
Oh no!
Yeah.
You will. Now, you fancy asses will probably bring them an Olipop or something, right? But back in the day, we didn't have that. And so now I will tell you, I probably didn't like it. And I can probably tell you it didn't last very long because it's not a real solid memory. But I've got a little bit of an inkling of
All right.
remembering this. What I also know to be true is everybody has a perspective on what their life was like. And I would never say to anyone that their memory was invalid. or
Even when I
didn't
tell you I
happen.
never remember you cooking.
Well, I mean, I know I cooked. That's my truth.
Okay, so there's a thin
Just because
line.
you
look.
don't remember.
I remember you
Look,
cooking,
look.
just not often.
Hey,
Yeah.
Not as often as
Yeah, let me just tell all you,
should have. I'm
all
just
you
kidding.
moms out there, if you're working all day and trying to come home to cook a meal, like what are you doing with your life? You now have services. HelloFresh, all these services.
Sponsor.
If I would have had those
20% off, Big Brown
services,
Sack.
my family would have ate better. Were they fed? They were fed.
Yeah, we were fed.
Hashtag water platter.
Hashtag water platter.
Joe has his hand up. That's what he needs to do now to get a word in edgewise.
I have resorted to the raised hand method. But I can only speak from my experience with mom's cooking, Tammy's cooking. And all I'll say is every time I'm down in the OC, I'm getting homemade omelets in the morning and
Every day.
and chicken enchiladas at night.
Yeah, my mom's
that's all I'm
chicken
saying.
enchiladas. Slap.
That's all I'm saying. So
Slap. You're welcome, Joe.
thank you.
Yeah, there was a lot of eating out. There was a lot of, you guys love Chili's. We did a lot of Chili's.
I joke with people that Chili's held our family together 3 years longer than it should have.
Ah,
That
that's
and the
hilarious.
Cheesecake Factory.
Oh, I mean, come on, you know. Now, I will say that probably the biggest, the thing that I'm sure your dad has lots of things he can complain about me about. But
Don't you fucking shut your fucking mouth, Dad. You
But-
never talk about my mom. Or you speak
Yeah.
your name and you're gonna get.
and I can complain plenty about Dawn, right? There, I mean, when you live with somebody a long time, you can focus on all their amazing qualities, or you can forget those and focus on some of the negative things. The choice is yours.
Totally.
However, we hired a lot of
it.
stuff out, which also included eating out. When I look back, I only have 2 regrets of my parenting. One was I do wish that I would have, now that I understand, and mostly because of Greg, I understand the connection that can be made in the kitchen in a way that I did not when I was raising kids.
What do you mean connection?
Well, like Greg likes to cook. And so when we started dating, he would automatically, we're going to make breakfast together. We're going to put this to whatever we were making and eating, we were doing it together. And, you know, when you're new in a relationship, sometimes you're doing things you maybe don't want to do or aren't comfortable with just because you want to be with that person. But what I learned from that experience is I really do enjoy being in the kitchen with him. And had I had the skill set to bring my kids into that, I might have then enjoyed it more and passed that along to them. But I didn't have the skill set.
So first regret was
I wish that I
Not
would have.
having a culture community in the kitchen.
Yeah.
so really the message. So really the message here is women should be spending more time in the kitchen.
And then the other one is I wish I would have just played more with my kids. Like Dayna,
I remember you playing Barbies with me a lot.
I would come and I would play Barbies, and I would really be, I loved to play Barbies when I was a kid with my friends, and I had this great Barbie house for her, and she had all the best Barbie stuff, the Barbie car and the everything. And I would go up and sit with her, and I would try to conjure that imagination of what that was like, and I just couldn't always bring it to light.
I was always like, Mom, like, you're supposed to say this.
Yeah, she was kind of always having to tell me how to act out this. I couldn't get to my inner child.
No, Mom, you're supposed to say this.
Yeah.
So I would oftentimes, which is why, there was a lot of game playing because that I was comfortable with and I could do. So I
couldn't tap into your imagination.
I couldn't.
That's sad.
And so sometimes I would just sit and change the clothes of the Barbies for her because that's, she'd want a clothes change.
Yeah.
And so I would sit and do that kind of thing with her. And that is.
No, Mom, she's sleeping. That Barbie is supposed to be getting her hair done. What are you not getting about this?
Yeah. So there were a lot of scripts that I could not follow. So going back, I don't know how I could have done that better, but I could have jumped on the trampoline more. I could have gotten in the pool more. I could have, also same thing with the cooking thing. And this is, I know this is not unique to me because I have many, many girlfriends, and we all agree that we would have just spent more time, even though in many, many moments I was telling myself, unpack your suitcase, be here, right now, right here, right now. And I was really in it. You just
I have a counter argument.
can never get enough of that.
I have a counter argument. Well, I do think you did lack imagination. Where you really thrived with being playful is my birthday party themes.
Yeah.
My birthday parties were off the motherfucking chain, baby.
Yeah.
They were so cool. I had a legendary one that I literally bring up it comes up in conversation once every 3 months.
You bring it up so much, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What is it?
The Fear Factor birthday.
My Fear Factor birthday party. So my mom creates, and I was obsessed.
It was a great party.
And you set up challenges for all the kids. And I'm sure it was so entertaining for the adults too, to watch these kids do these crazy things. But I remember one of the challenges is you had a bucket of raw noodles and it had real worms in them. And we had to get all the marbles out of the buckets and put our hands in worms. It was legit. My mom,
I thought you were going to say you made
around.
them eat them. I thought you were going to say they had to eat the wormy noodle soup.
Fucking around
She was
with
not
my
fucking around.
parties.
Yeah, didn't kids throw up and shit?
Yeah. There was another, that was the spinach
I'm so
challenge.
proud.
That was a spinach challenge. I remember all the parents laughing. No one was doing anything. All these kids are throwing up raw spinach, and everyone's just standing there watching us laughing, cheersing each other.
It was amazing. It was great. I mean,
That sounds
now
lit.
they might call that child abuse now, but back then that was fun.
That's what we call good old fashioned good time. It ain't a party until a little kid throws up.
Yeah.
No,
And not everybody got a trophy.
ain't that the truth?
That's not how I raised
That's not
her.
how the world works, kids.
But everybody got a vomit bag.
They did.
And we had a kitty cat litter box
Cake.
and it was in a real litter box that
Yeah.
my mom got from Petco. She put a cake in it with graham cracker on top and melted Tootsie Rolls on top, so it looked like little poops.
Look like little poops. The poops
I was
were
like, "Give me
hanging
that
over the
poop
side
cake."
and stuff.
Ew, dude.
So
Yeah, it was
sick.
so gross.
You had a poop cake.
I had a poop cake.
Ew.
I ate shit on my birthday.
You're in big trouble, though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of shit
For my birthday.
So I've been having to raise my fucking hand to get into the conversation.
Can this guy leave already? Jeez.
But in the process of
And
raising my
next time
hand,
you go away on a trip or something, I'll come. Dana and I'll do the podcast while you're away.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, if we take
Stand-in co-host. Sorry, go.
if we edit all of my lines out of this podcast, the podcast is going to be 2 minutes shorter. But anyways, I'm having to raise my hand to get into the
Yeah.
conversation.
And sometimes we're not answering you.
Yeah. There's a couple of hands that have gone unanswered.
Really? I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
notice.
Oh yeah. Because the subject changed like twice. I'm like, fuck it. It's over. That thought's gone.
Oh, we love you, Joe.
Sorry.
Thanks. Anyways, so in the process of me raising my hand to butt into the conversation, I start thinking about school, and you're in education. We
Yeah.
brought it up briefly throughout the podcast, but we haven't really talked about it too much. But last night I'm here by myself, and I'm thinking, what should I watch? All of the shows I watch with Dayna. At nighttime, this big brown sack turns into binge city.
Big brown binge.
And so I turn on Jon Stewart's news politics show on Apple TV.
Okay.
And it's basically talking about World War III. World War III is coming. He's talking to all these different, UN representatives and things like that. And they're saying, yeah, we don't think it's going to happen, but hey, maybe the problems of our generation will get saddled with the youth, and they're going to have to deal with this. So, as someone who's in the education system, is working with our youth,
Oh, gosh.
should America have faith in the youth of today?
I think the generation behind you guys is taking no shit. And I think that you're going to see kind of the same kind of revolutionary things that we saw in the 60s. A lot of marching, a lot of protests by young people. People upset with the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, not enough opportunities for them. And nobody's buying the bullshit anymore. We know that the government is bought and paid for. And that stuff can't be hidden anymore because of all the social media platforms we have now. We don't just rely on specific news outlets to tell us what's happening. There's just so much more information out there. And so I don't think the generation coming up, what I see in our school systems, I'm very happy about. I think that we see kids that are more apt to speak up for themselves and to advocate for themselves. And not necessarily just because their parents are big advocators of them. And we had the helicopter parent era. Now we have the bulldozer parent. But what I see is a generation of children that are going to be able to rise up and do what's right for our country.
So, what I'm hearing is we are going to kick Russia's ass.
I wasn't even talking about war. I was actually
Vladimir Putin, you should be shaking in your boots right now if you're even wearing them, you all.
Oh, God.
oh shit.
We'll cut that part out.
Okay.
that out.
Yeah. I love too much. I'm scared of them.
What is it about the school system that is it anything about the school system that's changed that is bringing about this new generation of badasses?
Yeah, there is. And it might just be more specific to the West Coast, East Coast. But the students in the school system now are experiencing more of what we term personalized learning. Kids are advocating and learning how to critically think more than just the classroom, 30 kids in a seat, indoctrination all day about whatever the textbook says. Like, we're trying to teach the kids to be creative, to be collaborative, to be community focused and driven. And that's what's changed in the education system, at least the ones that I'm involved in.
That's really cool.
That's incredible.
So to personalize their learning, like, can they say, like, I like history a lot more than English, so I want to take more history classes?
Well,
Like, how do they personalize something?
let's say a student needs to do a project on something. They're going to get to pick what they're interested in versus everybody's doing a mission project.
Oh.
Everybody's doing this or everybody. And I am talking
But
about
would it have to be on theme?
it would have
like,
to hit
they're
certain
given a scope?
standards. Yeah, it would have to hit maybe certain standards. They would be given a scope, the kinds of topics that, they need to cover or whatever that may be, but it's not going to be everybody's doing a mission project. Everybody's studying a certain Indian tribe. It's deeper. It's more critical thinking, like how did the missions actually affect the development of California rather than we're going to build a mission and talk about how somehow that's still honored in the state.
Yeah.
We've talked about a lot. We've talked about your and Dayna's relationship. We've talked about your past. We talked about the HTBTs. We've talked about what the future could look like. We've talked about the nation's youth and the future of our country.
We really
But-
covered it all.
If there's one thing you'd like the listeners to take from this podcast, if they could only remember one thing, what should people take from this episode?
That's such a hard question. One thing
That's why we ask it. We're here to ask the hard-hitting questions, folks.
I think it's the part about being present and being where you are. I've enjoyed being right here on this big brown sack with you badasses this evening and telling our stories and getting to know each other better. I love it. That's what we should take.
Chef's frickin' kiss. Couldn't have said it better myself. Wow, Tammy.
Thanks for having me, you guys. I love you.
Incredible.
We love you.
Thanks so much for listening. This has been episode 9. 9 on 9. This has been episode 9 of the Big Brown Sack. Tune in next week when we have our friend Ryan. RT on the podcast. Tune in next week. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.